let me get it squared. Go ahead, lightly tap. Again. Again. Go for it. Well, you can always finish out your blow when I say well. Give me a tap on that corner, would you? Thank you. This over the hole. Telephone. Okay. See my built-in talking point?
The little size on the hole.
Like that? You think that was on purpose, or you think that's just a rapid design case?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
I'm gonna leave you thinking about that.
All right. Are you gonna want to forge around the drip?
No, we'll leave it like it is. So here's a, we're gonna call it a designed talking point. Notice how it don't look square? That's what happens if you drill too big of a hole. Drill too big of a hole for the drift that you're intending to put through. You notice it's round. I don't know who I need to zoom in on there. So the hole here is just, it didn't push enough material. It just went through. So that size hole was fine for this. But I thought I'd be a cheapskate on time and not have to take out the drill bit, you know, and put in another drill bit and drill another hole. I just like, I'll just run that over. That should be fine for both. Come back and bite you. Every time. But it's more square on this side, so we're going to call it okay.
Be flatter on edge. We could probably get that pretty square.
Yeah, probably could. Dress it back a little bit, close it up. Okay. So, go ahead and throw this back in, get it hot again. We'll go at it one more time through that little area. We might bring my, yeah, I brought a flatter. We'll go ahead and do a flatter and hammer that a little bit. Do what my dad used to call in heating and air conditioning, a make-a-fit program. We'll make it fit. By the way, if anybody needs to get up, move around, get a drink, grab a donut, do any of the sort of that good stuff, basically this is more of the same, drifting a square hole. Do that. Have fun yet? Yeah. Good. How do you think everyone's enjoying the demo so far? Doing all right? Keeping the talk going?
Yeah.
Keeping the mindless banter alive?
I think it's as critical of a skill for demonstrating as it is. Right? Because if we just sit there and only tell the things we're doing, looking at books,
Yeah.
I don't think you've lost the person yet.
Good, good. I can't stand it when I get go to demonstrators and the demonstrator's not demonstrating. They're not talking through whatever it is they're doing. They're just sitting
making
there.
a project.
I mean, they're making it. I mean, that's cool and all, but it's like I know it takes a high degree of mental skill and whatnot, but it's like you got to tell people what you're doing. So
demonstrators like that, they're expecting you to, like I did at school, you look at it, you understand what they're doing, you soak it in, So they realize that the crowd, sitting there not asking questions and stuff, and they see what's going on, they're assuming
that they
you
know
what's going on and you know how to make this thing.
Well, yeah, that's the interesting thing whenever you demonstrate. Again, like I said, for a group of blacksmiths, you don't know if there's a guy in there that's been doing commercial ironwork for like 35 plus years, and he's sitting there just laughing on the inside because, you're telling your measly little experiences from 10 years in the craft, right? And like, so you never know who you're talking to. And then you could be looking at that guy that you think, man, I bet you he's been in it for 35 years and this is his first day ever being around blacksmithing. And
what I have trouble with is when I demo, oftentimes I end up in my own brain just assuming that since I know how to do this, that these other people must know how to do it too.
Yeah.
So you don't. I always find it hard to pick how much you're going to give, so you're not like talking down to people that might know.
Well, I'm in a weird spot too right now. I think in my career, and I guess I've gotten this sense about it. Year number 30 is a weird year for me. There's all sorts of, I call it my midlife crisis, basically, because I'm like, where am I going in my next 30 years? What am I doing, and like, is this my thing? And talk about copper work and stuff like that, copper work, like, am I going to keep, why move away from that, and stuff, and so really doing a lot of introspective looking and stuff. But I'm at a weird place in blacksmithing right now, because I have enough years in the craft of blacksmithing to know something about what I'm talking about. So say if I was just a straight up hobbyist, 10 years is a long time to be doing anything as a hobby for 10 years. Somebody with 3 years is going to be like, wow, you must really know quite a bit more than me.
But then in this for 18 years, but
at the same point,
level that you are.
Yeah, and there's the weird spot. See, I've been doing it as a business for 7.
Right.
And that's got it all screwy, because doing it from the perspective of business and production, efficiency, things like that, versus somebody who's done it for 35 or 40 years in their home shop on the weekends, evenings, when they had time. That's kind of one of those things that weird twilight zone of experience. Like where do I rank? It's one thing if I've said I've been doing it as a profession for 35 years. I'm an old, gray-headed, bearded guy, and everybody's like, okay, that guy knows what he's talking about. And you can almost walk into almost any blacksmithing group and be assured that you know more than everybody in that room, just about, at that point. But I'm not there yet, what I mean? Because there's people who've been in it for 20 years.
I think it's one of the cool things about blacksmithing and the blacksmithing community. Really, you know what you're doing. Nobody cares how long you've been doing it.
Yeah.
And since there is an art portion of it, you could have been doing it for 3 weeks and already be good at what you do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep, you can. And there are people who pick this up, and man, they're just like, you see them 3-4 years down the road, and you're like, holy cow. They go on to doing a lot of stuff. I know a guy from Touchstone that did that, and I mean, he had been in it much longer than I had, about the same amount of time. But he's been to like every college, university. He's studied abroad with a bunch of Smiths over there, and basically I can't do that. I've got a wife and 3 kids. I got to feed mouths, right? So I'm not going to go trollop off onto the sunset.
A 2-month adventure in Germany to learn.
Yeah. I'm not going to take a 2-month holiday here, away from the shop. But now you'll look at some of his work, and a lot of his work that I'll see, because he's taken that step to have all that education, because he spent basically his entire every waking moment devoted to the craft, he's surpassed me on skill level. I have more time, I have almost more time in it than he does, because he started a little bit after me, but he's better than me. He's just better at forging than I am. So I say better, his work's different. It's different than mine, but it's very well thought out. It's around design. He's went to college for design. I don't have no designing degree, or anything like that, so.
Everybody has their own different style, too.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, some people, you can lay out a bunch of ironwork and not put down a name next to it, and people come along and take a look at it, and they can tell just by looking at that ironwork They know whose ironwork it is. You don't have to tell them that.
Yep. Peter Ross and Tom Latney are that way. You ever see any of their ironwork? It doesn't need explanation.
Right.
Their ironwork is just their ironwork. You can tell. You can spot it a mile away. Good. Big old wall poker on there. That's good. Ah, come on, you. We're just going to tap this in, so don't go Mongo on it. Good.
You want to go all the way through?
No, whoa, right there. Okay, so now what we're doing is we're trying to make that hole a little smaller. So we're going to use a flatter and try to drive that corner back down, so this way we make that hole just a wee smaller. Now I don't know the guy who's responsible for this contraption, but it's been sold at Quad State for a number of years. It's called the Poor Boy Flatter, where I got the idea of welding a sledgehammer to just a piece of flat plate of steel. Is it Karen Cherubach? Yeah.
Poor Boy blacksmith tool.
It works.
Yeah, take a steel plate and weld it to a sledgehammer.
Yeah, it works. Sure saves a lot of beating for the small shop. Yep. Go. So on this, now we got one side that's a little better than the other. One side's not, but still not quite there. So we're going to call that an abandoned cause. Roy drilled way too big of a hole on that one. But just imagine in your mind's eye that that was a perfectly square hole and everything worked out just fine. We're going to move on to the next one. And how are we doing on time, by the way? Is it lunchtime? Is it?
It's about 11 o'clock. 11 o'clock. So I think we're going for noon or 1 o'clock.
Noon or 1 o'clock lunch? Okay.
Grant, what time were you guys shooting for on lunch?
Just need to know how long I need to stall for.
About 1. I mean, I'll go check and see when they think we're done. Original target was 1.
Okay, that's fine. Works. You bring the tongs that
Are the right size?
are the right size, and they're sitting there the whole time while you're struggling with it. It works.
Pickups let you maneuver it a little bit better, I think.
Yeah, they're handy for that. Well, problem with these is you got to be able to grip the side to get a good grip on them. That is not always possible. We're gonna build this fire up. See, stalling. That's how that works. I don't know if anybody's paying attention. It's probably good they're not, huh? Pay attention. Stalling for time. We've probably got a super huge, healthy clinker down in here.
Actually, this cold, it's pretty low clinker. It's amazing how little we get sometimes. And of course, you're gonna.
Do you guys buy this from Sofa?
No,
or you have it trucked in like Sofa does?
We have this place called Pine Valley Bolt that's like a few miles away from here that they just purchase pallets of it and then let us buy it at whatever quantity we want.
There was a clinker pushed off to one side, so good.
You want to mop or wet down on the edges?
Yeah, I'm going to do that. Sure. So as you can see here, what I'm doing is I'm basically building this fire back up. I'm getting that coat that was all built up along the sides here. I'm breaking that into the center, getting my fire pot back to not a hollow fire pot anymore. So this way I can set this piece back on here, and then I'll cover it up again. And it's just a kind of a repetitive process. I may have not been repeating it every time I pulled the block out. Basically, every time you pull the block out, you've destroyed your fire. You work, you put it back, you build the fire back. You build the fire back to what you're doing. that heat up. I'm going to shut my camera off so I'm not wasting battery. Looking at a white screen. There we go. Just out of curiosity, who here has been smithing longer than 1 year? Okay, trick question. 5 years.
I was just part-time. Hobby stuff.
It's part-time.
Most all
But years, huh?
except a few of
Cool.
them. Part-time hobby.
I'm just always curious about that on, you know, how long someone's been at the craft for or has been inspired to do this. Down at SOFA, there's a lot of people who are first-timers, basically. First time this year. Things like that TV show. I'm sure you all heard it. The hit new TV show. Do I even have to say it?
Now,
F-I-F.
One of our members was featured on there.
Oh.
Back in the day.
Oh, man.
Came in second.
I was actually offered to go on that show, surprisingly enough. They're basically contacting anybody with a YouTube channel. So
Anybody, I think
Basically
last week
they
the club gets invitations.
yeah, it does. Yeah. There's several people down at SOFA that has that same thing. You know, they get asked a bunch about that, and they wanted to take and audition me, I guess. I don't know, pose me. What you call it? Pitch. They were trying to pitch me to producers for a different show that they were doing. That there was going to be a $50,000 grand prize for it. And I don't know any of the other specifics about it other than that. But the lady who called me, I said, well, hon, I said, I want to be straight up with you. I am the least likely person to ever forge a knife. Like, I'm just not into flat and pointy things. That's not what I do. And she's like, oh, okay, well, you know, it's perfect. I'm like, not hear me. I'm the least likely to ever forge a flat and pointy object. And so, oh, well, yeah, that's why. She's like, well, do you think you could? I'm like, well, yeah, I can, to any degree of skill, who knows, but anyway, so she's trying to, so I was talking to her, I'm like, you know what, why not? I'm an optimist. I said, yeah, just let me know the details, get back with me. So she went and talked around, and I needed to know the timeline. And her timeline, basically, it was going to require 2 weeks of one of my busiest months. At the tail end of that month, it was going to require 2 weeks at the beginning of my next busiest month, my second busiest month of the year. And so I was giving up about $10,000 to $12,000 a month each month for a chance at $50,000. I'm like, no, I'm sorry, can't do that. I was like, thank you for the offer though. And I said, you know what, it'd be my luck. They'd end up putting me against some uber master knifesmith somewhere. You know, I never had a chance to begin with, but I wasted an entire month of my life, you know, flying back and forth. And anyways, it was crazy. But yeah, it's an interesting show. It's definitely entertainment. It's definitely entertainment based. I went and watched. Maybe I shouldn't say this because considering I'm on camera, I don't care. Right? Everybody who does this. I watched like some of those pirated episodes that they put on YouTube. Where they do the squeaky voice, right? Because they're trying not to get striked for a copyright claim, like one of those type deals. And because I don't have TV, I don't have cable at my house. I don't ever get a chance to sit and watch it, so that's a completely wasted investment there of time. So I'm like, well, so I guess I better view the show and kind of see what I'm up against, see the competition. And I came to the realization really quick that I'm just not that interesting. I'm not that entertaining. Some of these guys are just like, they're just like, Ah, he dropped the drip. What will he do? Come back after this episode for Dove, body lotion. I'm not like that. I'd be like, oh, I dropped a drip. Clip over. So I'd be very, very, very boring. I'd be very, very boring. I don't think we were a good fit from the start. Oh.
I don't know. Your live streams are pretty entertaining.
Huh?
Don't you want to make something out of an old lawnmower?
I have no interest whatsoever in making something out of an old lawnmower. So
They make you make it out of 4 old lawnmowers.
4 old lawnmowers and a goat. Poor goat. Yeah, I thought that was interesting. So, brings me to another good talking point. And I've mentioned this several times in business live streams and things I do on YouTube, talking about blacksmithing and business and the business of, not every opportunity is a good opportunity. It may be a good opportunity, but it might be not the right opportunity for you, and you just need to pass on that. Thankfully, I did. Otherwise, I'd be giving up a lot of work right now. And this great opportunity to demonstrate here, right?
Right.
Meet all you nice people. And a complete and utter excuse to play hooky for the weekend.
No 50 grand.
No 50 grand here?
No.
Not a chance?
No.
Not even a small one?
Nope.
Sell you a lottery ticket.
For 50 grand, I'll make you a sword. I can't guarantee you'll cut anything on it, or that you'll be the best fruit ninja in the world. But I'll make you a sword for 50 grand. That sounds all right. Actually, that's a lie. I'm going to subcontract that work out for about 250 bucks. Somebody else, and then I'm going to stamp my name on it and say, yeah, I made that sword.
Yeah.
That's how it's done. You're welcome.
Flea
Is
market
that
sword.
dishonest? You think that's dishonest?
No, because you just put it right out there.
Whoa. You
I'm
paid
dishonest.
for it. You paid for it.
They paid for a sword. I delivered. I'll just straighten it, with a rawhide mallet when it gets to my shop. There we go. Mark quality. So, any aspiring sword makers out there that do work for real cheap, drop me your business card by the time this is over with. So that way I have a few contacts if that ever comes in. I've only ever had to do that a couple times, outsource work for somebody. Hey, look at that. Look how dingly. You guys can't hear me at all. I've only ever had to outsource work a couple times to somebody else, and it's just mainly because I wasn't interested in fooling with it. And I just said, look, I'll do this portion of it, but I'm going to outsource the rest to somebody else. They're like, okay, sure, sounds fine. So the customer is always aware of that. That's more ethical than the other route. Like, oh man, this was hand forged, this beautiful katana by Roy Adams. Everybody's gonna be like, that don't sound right. That don't sound right at all.
No.
You're exactly right. It doesn't sound right because Roy didn't make that at all for you.
And it's Damascus.
Which, that's another interesting thing. That's another interesting conundrum. Because I've debated a little bit back and forth of, whether to bring on employees at some point in time. And one, I'm a bit of a perfectionist, although I try not to be. Try to be productive than the perfectionist side. But I am a perfectionist, and I'm like most of us here. It's like our work is kind of our baby. It's like it's our thing. And so I've come to the realization no one's ever going to do it to my standards. Not that they won't do it good enough, it's just won't be the way I would do it, per se. And so I've went away and strayed away from having employees, but that's an interesting thing. So if you have if you have a master blacksmith, if you will, and he's got 50 employees underneath him smithing, is he really blacksmith anymore? See, it's his name, it's the company's name, it's the mark of quality, it's his touch mark that goes on the piece. Although he may have never, not once, touched a scroll or an element that's in that. So, wonder if that's just a generally acceptable thing. Because a lot of old ironwork and gates and railings and stuff, you think, oh, well, that's just one dude in a shop that made that big, gorgeous, 50-foot long gate, right? Gargoyles, and snakes eating your babies, and all that type of stuff. And no, it was a whole company that produced that ironwork. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been feasible in one man's lifetime, in some cases, to do, 5,000 foot of railing by oneself with, 3,000 pieces of element per section, fancy stuff like that. And so you got to think, well, that's a lot of people working on that. Lots of apprentices. So how much does the master at that point really do? Good. That booger off there? Good enough. Just call that good. I got another t-shirt in my merch store. Yes, that's a shameless plug for more of my merchandise. Aren't you so lucky? Got another t-shirt in my merch store that says good enough for YouTube. It's a saying I like to use a lot. It's fun. Go ahead. Just where it starts getting square. Go ahead. Well, that's good. Good tap. And again, don't look at this one. The hole was drilled just a wee bit oversized from what it needs to be. Learning experience, right? This is how we learn. By our instructor's mistakes. Go ahead. See you. All you. So well, I don't think I can stall it for a whole nother beat. Let's go ahead and run that to the other side. That gravel don't like that. On which side you're on? Let's try this side, shall we? Whenever you're drifting a piece, punching a piece, it's important to find the right size bolster underneath to support the work. I think that was the side we did have originally. Let's over this way. Reason for that being, if you're not amply supported on the underside, you'll have suck down issues too. But it won't be on the. You'll suck the block down through the hole if you get a ring or other things like that going on. Go. Yeah, it's not half bad. Because the t-shirt was good enough for you. Good enough. All right, I'll stand it up here. Whose camera do I need to point it at? Right there, right front and center. Okay, so as you can see, run into that same issue. Where's Mr. Thing? There he is. We run into the same issue. The hole was drilled a little larger, see? A little too large for that drift to go through. It was too large of a hole. And so I wasn't able to get rid of the roundness in here. There's a square, it's drifted square through there where you can put a square shaped tool in there, but you're not going to be keeping anything square or forming anything square in there. It's going to be kind of square-ish, or square-esque. You want to be fancy. Square-esque. That one there, you can see, that was the correct size hole drilled for it, because at the end of it, it got drifted perfectly square. Same thing here. right size hole for it to be able to grip square. Here again, too big of a hole. That was really too big of a hole because now you can barely see any corners. Barely see any corners there. So now these here, I'll leave these exactly as they are. Those are just drilled holes for acting as bolsters to punch things over. This one here, as this has moved, this is why I pointed that out, that you may want to take and leave these undrilled. Undrilled while you're doing the other, and then come back and drill them. There's no time limit on drilling. You can always drill them later on. Unless you're working with something like H13, a piece of air hardening tool steel, then you might most certainly want to have those holes in there before you heat it up. And, ruin its annealing there. But that's how you do that in. And as you can see with a buddy coming over on a weekend and helping you out during the week, 9 to 5, sure. Cool. Sounds great. As you can see, it goes really quick. You do this by yourself. I could have easily, with us already, a swedge block. Of course, we're cheating a bit. If you have an anvil, you can use the hardy hole on the anvil. If you got a piece of pipe where you just drill a hole in the center of a top plate, like a thick piece of plate, and weld it to the top of the pipe, do the same thing. You heat it up, pop your hole down through there, and now you got essentially a glorified swedge block. You can do it by yourself. I could have easily stood here and struck for myself, but it always helps to have a buddy do that. So that's basically done. Now I'm going to heat it up. I'm going to throw a touch mark in it, you know, just a sign that I've done it. My touch mark has changed a couple times over the years. Back in my earlier days, this is actually one of my first touch marks I used on my ironwork. It's basically a star drill bit for drilling rock wherever you hit it and turn, hit turn. And then I found out the value of checking which orientation your letters are running in, because this is a negative of what's going to happen. And so it's got a backwards R in it. So a lot of my earlier work has this cross-like shape for Christ Center Ironworks, and then you punch into it, and it's got a backwards R. So I had to make up a really neat story, you know, to cover my track. And I said, oh, that's because Christ ruined me for normal, right? You know, that was the pitch after that. It was like, yeah, people will believe that story. That's not telling. That's why I put it in there. It was purposeful. Actually, it was just a big mistake. So I'm going to throw a touch mark in this. And then, depending on our timeline, I'll heat up another block of steel. Or I can go into anything else. Any questions? Got to give me something. Ask me what the weather's going to be tomorrow.
Other than this.
Wait till tomorrow. I'll tell you. I'd make a bad meteorologist. How hot is it outside? I don't know. Let me check. Is it raining? It's not raining. About 100 degrees. Give or take. Is the sun shining? Sure is. Once you know it. Alright, get this getting hot. So I can talk about touch marks for a second. This is a good place to do that. So I'm about to put a touch mark on here. I got several videos, instructional videos on the channel about touch marks. When designing a touch mark, it's important for you to think about what you're going to be using that touch mark for. If you're going to be doing a lot of hot work, where you're punching it in hot, it's good for that touch mark to be pretty robust. If you're doing large work, it doesn't help for you to have a microscopic touch mark on really large work. You might be able to find it between a flake scale or, you know, something else, a heavy coat of paint. It'll disappear on you. If you're doing really fine work or refined stuff, smaller, more minimalist is better. But with something like this, it comes down to what do you make your touch mark from? A lot of guys will use 5160, some will use 4140. I'm a big fan of H13 if you can find it. If you can get it, you can buy it, as I have done. If you're doing hot work, a lot of hot work, just this way you don't have to worry about all that work that you made on the touch mark going away by stamping too big of a piece of steel and letting it on there too long and over tempering it. All my touch marks are, you know, with the exception of this one was just, again, a star bit. I couldn't tell you what this is made from. Do you know? Anybody knows what star bits are made from? Can't tell you. It's a tool steel of some kind, and I basically filed and grind it and never touched the heat on it whatsoever. I didn't heat it up to do this. Actually, I lied. I did for this, for the R on there. I heated it up for that, and then I just quenched it in water. And I figured, well, that's good enough. And so far it's held up. This here, you can see, has got a real flat profile on the touch marker. It's got a real flat profile. That is okay if you're punching into hot work. Not so good if you're touching it after it's cooled down. It's cold. You try to whack on a steel bar with it like this, you'll never get that to imprint. You want to kind of scuff around on the surface. It just takes too much force to get that flat face, push or depress the steel. Too much compression. So if you're doing hot work, you can get away with stuff that pushes a backdrop away. If you're doing cold work, you need something that cuts away the backdrop. So, you know, you need an innie instead of an outie. Build a block of steel. So if you look at a lot of stamps you buy, like impression art stamps, the backdrop of the design is cut away. So this way there's the ridges, almost like chisels, points, the way the design is proud of the surface that you're impressing. And that's so this way jewelry makers and whatever can stamp it into cold material. So when you're designing touch marks and stuff, that's worthy to think about making your own touch mark. I've had a lot of guys give me emails having problems with making a touch mark, and it's just like, it's not working. It's like, I got the design on there, but it's not stamping. And it's usually because, well, they designed it for the wrong application, whatever it was, you know, to do. My touch mark now is a small, it fits on it can fit on the end of a 1/4 inch rose stem, and I made it myself in the shop. I filmed a little video of it. That was a lot of small work, doing that and graving out the little cross in the center of it and all the small little fidgety file work to do. I made that out of a piece of coil spring. Just random coil spring. Don't ask me what it's made from. It's a car's coil spring of some kind. Made my touch mark out of that, and so far it's holding up really well. But I did that out of the necessity of doing a touch mark for my copper bowls, my copper work, because this was okay, my first touch mark, wherever I said, yeah. This was okay for a beginner. This was okay for when I was first doing my forging, and my work kind of supported that. Now I'm doing refined, highly polished pieces that this isn't okay anymore. I need something that's more minimalist on the piece. You know, the last thing they want to do is buy a bowl or a vessel and have anniversary dates and, you know, engraving and all this other stuff on it, and have a blow right there in the center of the BAM! You know, it's like, I've seen touch marks that are like this, you know, like, you know, on a press, you know, it's like, good God, that's like, and it's right there in the middle of where your eye gets pulled to it. You know, the touch mark, your eye gets pulled to that touch mark because on a highly polished piece, it's a blemish. A touch mark or anything you stamp or anything you cut into the surface almost looks like a blemish. It naturally draws your eye to it because it's a contrast to that mirror finish that you're getting on the surface. And yeah, I had a few complaints of people there. It's like, well, the bowl was great and all, but God, could you have used any larger mark, you know, touch marks to sign your work with? And it was like, I need to kind of get on that. I think they're right about that. It's time for me to change. But work like this, as you can see, works out all right. See? Cool. Works good. Sweat block. It hasn't been said yet, but one of these are going to be auctioned off, isn't it?
I believe so.
One of these will be auctioned off. Don't know which one. That means you got to stay around to the end of the event. Find out. Get your chance. There's like a 1 in 15 chance right now. High odds. I'm going to buy a bunch of tickets.
It's not an auction, that's WRABA. It's an auction.
Oh yeah, it's an option. Thank you. Thank you for that clarification.
But you can buy a bunch of tickets.
I'll still buy a bunch of tickets, yeah. See what trouble comes from running your mouth too much? That's my problem. Run my mouth too much and then I forget what I'm talking about. Like, we're not having a raffle, boy. We're having an auction. You're telling people wrong. Well, bid high. Bid high. There. Recovered. Slightly. Brush it there. Awesomeness. Oil is in the way. Now there's an interesting problem with my touch mark that I never thought about. So I'm a Christian. I've got a Christian-based company, hence the name. You guys can't tell, you know, the Christ Center Ironworks thing in front of the title. An interesting problem, right? So, stamping a cross, you know, you're not supposed to hang a cross upside down, right? Christian person, it's kind of like a no-no. It's kind of just an unspoken rule. Well, on a piece of tool. On a tool, like when you stamp your tongs, stamp your tongs. Sometimes they're hanging in the rack, but when they're in use, they're. So which way you stamp that cross? If it goes sideways, it looks stupid. And sideways, you got to figure out which way to. Interesting. Maybe I overthink that a bit. Am I overthinking it? Good for thought. I should have picked an easier touch mark, something that didn't matter, like a flower or something. Just something circular. That way I never have to worry about which way to worry. I've done that on a few of my pieces though, like literally. I was looking at it from like the perspective of like the working end, stamped the piece, and it came out on the piece upside down, you know? And I actually had, comically enough, I had a customer who had bought from me just because of the name, the whole... which, I don't know if that was meant to be flattering, but it's kind of, I don't know, it's a little weird. They're like, yeah, the only reason why I bought from you is because you're a Christian. I'm like, well, that ain't very good now, is it? I don't speak very high on my iron work. You know, I would hope you like the work that I do. But this particular customer in general, they gave me the riot act about the fact that their cross was stamped in upside down on their piece. My touch mark was upside down, and I had never given it any thought prior to that. And I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna have to repent on Sunday or something for that. I don't think I did. It's like, well, that's weird. Never gave that any thought. We're good to go. So if you don't drill your holes big enough, you have a lot of material that you're pushing and you're moving. So this swage block would get all whopper jaw weird. If you drill them too big, you run into the problems like what we had with those last two holes there. They're just a little big and you can't get out the round, you know, the drill bit. You push the corners and it just falls right through, and then you never hit a fully shaped square. Like I said, that'll hold a square hole, but if, say, you were trying to form a square tenon or keep a tenon perfectly square or symmetrical or check it against that, it's going to be a bad place to check it now because it's got that round and not a big radius. So you'll have a square-ish, or like I said, if you're being fancy, square-esque. It makes it sound fancier. So that's it for the first one. What are we doing on time? Lunchtime yet? I know I asked that.
Yeah.
Not yet?
No, they got 1 o'clock. They said they were shooting.
So 11:30? Seriously?
Yeah.
Wow, okay, well I'll get another box of steel heated up then. I got plenty of time. Or does anybody need a break? We want to take a recess? An intermission? You good? Not saddle sore? Good to sit? Good. Alright. You can take a moment if anybody wants to and come up and take a look at it and inspect it a lot better. I guess if we leave it.
Lunch should be about 1 o'clock. They sit up there at the grill.
I'll set it right here. Keep in mind it is hot. It's not your friend. Don't touch it. You guys take pictures of it.
And that's the end of part 1.
What?